So thank you for joining us, Carmen. So we'll hop right in with the questions. Can you give us a little bit about your background and why you're seeking to be elected for the Cook County Sheriff?
Yes, to start off with, I'm married. I have 5 children and 4 grandchildren. I grew up in the West Humboldt Park neighborhood of Chicago, near North Avenue in California. My family moved to Skokie, the northern suburbs where I finished school after my older brother was murdered due to gang violence. In Skokie, it was quite an adjustment, if you can imagine, in 1984, going from Humboldt Park to Skokie. There weren't many kids. Actually, there weren't any other girls who looked like me, dressed like me, wore their hair like me, anything. So that was quite an adjustment. And I can say that's where I learned how to say things with a smile, so that people wouldn't be so confrontational. I did very well in high school there. Fast forwarding, my father and my mom both were factory workers, worked very hard. It took a toll on their health. My father, with his diabetes, had a leg amputated. My mother ended up with COPD from secondhand smoke. She had never been a smoker. So there wasn't a lot of time to help me in high school. I ended up getting pregnant shortly after graduating. So I was a teenage mom, moved back to the city to help my sister with her children, and had my son. And this opportunity came along as I was standing in line. I was already on public aid, standing in line with my boyfriend so he can get an application. They handed me one and I had $20 in the baby bag. During that time, back in 1993, you had to pay $20 to fill out an application to join the sheriff's office. It was $20 well spent. Fast forward, I was promoted several times during my 26-year career with the sheriff's office. So yeah, I would say it was a well spent 20 bucks. And just left in November of 2020, was able to attend the FBI Academy in 2013. And I'm now the executive clerk for court operations with Iris Martinez, clerk of the circuit court.
So can you tell us a little bit about why you're seeking to be elected to the Cook County Sheriff?
It's something that's difficult to describe, Quentin. So I'm going to try it like this. It really is who I am. And I say that because 21 years old, I grew up in the sheriff's office. I graduated high school. I didn't have the opportunity to go to college. The sheriff's office was my opportunity to really, it started to prove to my father, who had passed the year I was hired, to prove to him that the choices I had made and the decisions I had made and the mistakes that I had made weren't going to define who I was, and that I was going to be able to do something, right? So the sheriff's office gave me that opportunity. I worked as a deputy. I was a sergeant. Everywhere they threw me, it was something new. When they first put me on the streets, I was like, what is this? I learned a lot, but what it allowed me to do is take my personal life experiences, being a single mother, being in a neighborhood where no one looked like me, my brother being in gangs and being murdered, sisters who had issues with domestic violence. It allowed me to use all those aspects of my personal life so that everything I encountered professionally, I was able to look at it in a way of, how would this, or having this information, how would that have helped my family? How would that have helped my sister? How would that help my son? How would that have helped my neighbor? So every job and every opportunity I had in the sheriff's office, I really used and approached it in a manner of, if this had been available in this way or explained in this way, this situation could have gone differently. So with evictions, with orders of protection, with warrants, court security, dealing with the defendants coming over from the jail for court, all of that because I had a personal thing I can relate it to, helped me be really good at my job, and helped me find ways to make the system better. So I started writing policies and procedures and training the deputies so that they can serve the public better. And so they can be more empathetic and compassionate. Mind you, I'm also a mother. So we give our children what they need, not always what they want. It's the same thing with the people we work with and the deputies that report to us and with the community we serve. You explain to them, you're transparent, you tell them the truth, and then you try to do better. And I know that I can do that because I'm able to do that in my family, been able to do that with the 26 years at the sheriff's office. And I know that as sheriff, I can do that. I'm good at building relationships. I'm good at talking. I'm good at getting people to understand that they'll get what they need. We'll work on what they want. But statutory obligation is the sheriff. They're going to get exactly what they need.
Can you share a highlight or some memorable moments from over your career?
Well, we'll start with, I had just had my second son when I got hired by the sheriff's office. He was born November of 94. I was hired December 21st of 1994. So when I was hired, my son was only 4 weeks old and I was still nursing. The first week in the actual academy, we had to stand at attention for inspection. And the instructor, they already knew I had to divulge I'm nursing. I may have to get up and leave. They actually made me stand in line until my uniform shirt was soaked through before they dismissed me. That was, I can't even describe what that did. But because I was raised by a 4'11" feisty Puerto Rican woman, I don't take that stuff lightly. I get angry, I cry, and I come back with a smile, and I'm gonna do what I have to do. So that was one. The first day on the job, when they assigned me to the facility, the chief at the time, I felt two heavy hands on my shoulders. Mind you, 21 years old. I was on public aid before I took the job as a sheriff. So this was my first real job. Felt two heavy hands, and all I hear is, woo, they finally sent me a full figure deputy. I will tell you that a 21-year-old woman, first real career. So I had a gun, I had handcuffs, I had a uniform, and I had never felt more insecure and unsafe. But I had a job to do now, and I had children depending on me and a family to make proud. So I found other ways to get around those kind of things. But I say that's the most memorable because it's sad to say that 26 years later, we still have female deputies as evidenced in a lot of.
Yep, Carmen, I think you paused.
Oh, did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze.
Okay.
But the last thing that I heard was we still have female deputies.
Yeah, we still have female deputies and officers experiencing that kind of trauma on a daily basis. As I said, evidenced by the lawsuits that the county has had to pay because of the sheriff's lack of response to it. So like many other things in the county and in this country, we've come away, but we still have a long way to go.
And that's a perfect segue into my next question. What are some of the issues in law enforcement that we face at the local level that you believe that you can help with if you were elected as sheriff?
Well, we'll start with the obvious one, Quentin. Electronic monitoring is a huge issue. There's a lot of finger pointing going on. And just to keep it brief, the finger pointing is going on with everything. But with electronic monitoring, because it's so multifaceted, right? The judges are making the decision. The state's attorney is charging, the law enforcement agency is arresting, the sheriff is supposed to supervise. So you have all these people that everyone is trusting, and no one's taking accountability. So still at the end of the day, the community is not feeling safe. So the biggest issue we're facing is, as the sheriff, I know what my statutory obligation is. I don't make the decision right now. I used to, the sheriff used to decide. I don't anymore. The sheriff gave that up. I don't get to decide who goes on my program. I do, however, and I am, however, responsible for supervising those individuals. I am, however, responsible for notifying the communities that those individuals are being released to let them know what's going on. And I am morally and ethically responsible to provide some sort of services while they're on electronic monitoring. These individuals are earning time or credit towards their sentence, right? They're doing that without having to participate in any education, any reform, any mental health, any substance abuse programs. They're not participating in anything, again, because the sheriff has eliminated all of those programs. So we're doing a disservice to the community, and we're also doing a disservice to the offenders. There's no chance to be acclimated into your community because there is no buy-in. As the person on electronic monitoring, I don't have any tie to the community. I'm not involved in a program. And as the community, you're not even watching this person. I don't want them here. And that's a horrible place to be. So that to me is the same issue with electronic monitoring. That's the same issue with warrants. Warrants is the same thing. Warrants go to the sheriff's office. The police have done their job and arrested somebody. State's attorney has done the charging. Somebody has not come to court or has not fulfilled their sentence. There's a warrant issued. It goes to the sheriff, and they're out in the community, and the sheriff's office isn't looking for them. And they're not working with local law enforcement. So there's 134 municipalities in Cook County, and that's a lot of partnering. Why not call Harvey? Why not call Chicago Heights and say, listen, we have 350 warrants in your town right now. You want to get together and figure out the best way to work, because I don't have the manpower right now to do it. Or I don't have, and work together. Let them know what's going on and form that partnership. So that's the other thing. There's too much ego in law enforcement because of the politics. I don't have an ego. I can't afford to have an ego. I've never even run for student council president, so I'm new to this.
All right. And that actually covered one of my next question. As far as if you were elected, what is one or two things that you would like to accomplish in the role, or you would like to see happen within the county?
And you only want two, Quentin?
You can give as many.
There's a lot. Listen, if Sheriff Dart has been there 16 years, and before that, he was the chief of staff. And so I try to think of, and the sheriff before him, he was there, and I think about like a legacy and what I'd like to accomplish. And I will tell you that with my 26-year career, just working there, not being the sheriff, I'm very proud of what I was able to accomplish in that role, as far as training local law enforcement agencies when it comes to orders of protection and firearm restraining orders, and helping and being an advocate for victims, including children. And with evictions, being able to explain to a landlord that I understand how difficult it is because you need to pay your mortgage, but we still need to work with the tenants because having them thrown out on the street when they're also vulnerable is going to be even a bigger issue later on. So let's work together to resolve that. So being able to work at such opposite spectrums with the perpetrators of domestic violence and the victims, with the landlords and the tenants, with the state's attorney and the public defender, with the office of the chief judge and the clerk's office, just at complete opposite ends of every spectrum, and being able to build those relationships. I've been able to do my entire career. So I would say that as sheriff, I would like to continue and really build, because we all know that it's different when you're an elected official. People hear you differently. People respond to you differently. And I'm the type of leader that I bring the voices of all those I have met with me when I come to the table. So I feel that there's been lacking of the voices of the people on the ground at the upper levels of the conversation. So I think that's what I want to be. I think that would be my biggest goal, is to have the people who hired me, voted for me, people who hired me, because it is a job and I do owe it to them, to feel that at every step of the way and in every conversation, they were there.
And my next question is, it's a two-part. Do you consider yourself a passionate public servant? And then the second part, and why, if you do?
So my husband just chuckled when you asked that, Quentin. because he says, I lost my house to this. I do. And I think that when I first started this, I used to say, oh, I'm not a politician, because I really related being a politician as something negative, because I myself had never been in part of politics. So I really saw it as a negative thing. And that's why I never, ever considered running for any office. But on this journey, starting with the clerk of the circuit court, Iris Martinez herself, to a lot of the others I've met along the way, even President Preckwinkle, who you know is not supporting me. She's supporting Tom Dart, but they are public servants. They truly believe that what they're doing is in the best interest. We just have different ideas on how to accomplish it. But I'm not a finger pointer. So I'm not saying, you know, who's right, who's wrong, whose fault it is. Just this is something we have to accomplish. But I've been in peer support and peer counseling since my family moved to Skokie in 7th grade. At the end of 7th grade, by the time I made friends, I've always been about helping people and for the underdog. That's just who I am. And I think it's because of my mom. My mom was so tiny, and yet nothing, she broken English because she didn't speak English that well. I would see her, I'd be on the bus with her and she'd yell from the back of the bus, hey, watch your purse, his hand is in there. Hey, don't say that to them. Like, she was always what we considered in everyone's business. But it was really helping people. Like, she wasn't, I've always been like that. So I think that was the other part of why I enjoyed the job so much, because it allowed me to do that in a bigger way. And I think that's the other part that's really exciting to me about being the sheriff of Cook County, is that I can do that, obviously in such a broader scope, because a public servant is who I am. I wouldn't have had 5 children and married for, I'm waiting for him to tell me how many years, because he remembers more than me, actually. A long time. And enjoy this. Like, this is energizing to me. If I wasn't in it because of the good of others. So yeah, I definitely am passionate about it.
So my last question for you is, what would you like your legacy to be?
Well, the obvious one right off the bat, this is now 191 years that the sheriff's office has been, and there has never been a woman. And this part makes me emotional, obviously, because I have 5 children, as I mentioned. I have 2 daughters. Of my 4 grandchildren, I have 1 granddaughter. One of my nieces recently made me get into TikTok, And the last video we made was, go little rock star. And it's, why are you running for sheriff? Well, the girls in my family are one of the big reasons. So that would be my biggest, to let them know that that they can do this, that nothing can stop you. If your heart is in the right place and you believe it, don't let people tell you that it's not possible. Don't let them tell you that somebody's been there 16 years and they're a lifelong politician and you're never going to beat them. I don't believe that for a minute. I'm going to be sheriff. And I want all the little girls in my family and who I come in contact with to know that. My little Latina girls, same thing. This too can be you. It doesn't matter. You can be in a room full of people who don't look like you, talk like you, or dress like you, and you can still come out ahead. So that is the biggest thing for me.